So before I start this video, I want to say that if you are too uncomfortable with consuming anything related to SA, CP, lolicon, or just overall degenerate behavior, then click off this video. But for those of you who want to be aware of this kind of activity and push back against it, today I'm going to be responding to a video from Arachnid Youth that delves into such things said earlier. The purpose of this video is to spread awareness of just how weird of a person he truly is, and it also relates to two other videos made by League Entertainment, as well as SK, where they exposed Arachnid showing off evidence and voice calls showing who he truly is, and how his behavior continued to grow more and more insufferable and degenerate. As far as my relationship with Arachnid, when I first met Arachnid, I obviously, didn't know much of him, but I was friendly to him, and we even did a stream together back when me and SK weren't on good terms after I released the PS4 video I made. I had heard of the allegations against him after the stream, and I was told by League Entertainment, who was friends with him, that these allegations against Arachnid were very flimsy, and that arguments that he had made before in the past where he was defending Lolly was something that he doesn't stand by anymore, and we all thought that he was just too ignorant on the topic and that we had got him to shift his viewpoint on it. Comic Legend, someone who's frequently on my streams, is the one who made this video, and he also talks more in detail in his video about Arachnid Youth, but I never saw Arachnid necessarily as a friend, but just as someone who I was friendly to because he is a mutual friend of people that I interact with very frequently. And after the extremely degenerate behavior and defense of Lolly started popping back up a little bit ago and started getting worse, we all started pressing Arachnid on the matter, and that's what brought us to cutting him off completely, and it brings us to this video and the videos posted by Comic Legend and SK. And if you would like to be educated on the topic of lolicon, this video from a YouTuber named Ween, this video will be linked in the description below, and it dives into pretty much everything you need to know about what it is, and the weirdos who consume or create it. And I would honestly even recommend watching that video before watching this one, as you will notice a pattern in those people and Arachnid Youth, and you will be more informed and understand my counter arguments better. So without further ado, let's get into this response.
Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch your YouTube channel die? Think, Arachnid, think!
As you guys know, I'm a self-admitted degenerate, and I have not shied away from showing that in my content.
Well, we're already opening the video with that, so okay.
But due to my own personal issues, that degeneracy had taken front and center to the point to where I thought it was a good idea to argue about cartoon porn to these people because, hey, I got the facts. You can't argue with facts given by a literal professional. Yeah, it turns out I was wrong about that. On Twitter, you can actually argue with the facts and somehow win because the facts don't agree with your feelings.
While I can agree the random Twitter brainlet will use feelings over facts and not be very logical, that's not what this is. Because your arguments and the quote-unquote studies you got from professionals are completely illogical, and we'll get into that later.
And it's also pretty bullshit that SK used gay people as a shield on why he shouldn't listen to professionals, because once upon a time they classified being gay as mentally ill. Okay, buddy, if that's going to be your go-to defense, allow me to be the one to tell you that that's a very slimy and underhanded way to downplay people who were victimized for 20 years that classification was put in place. Also, let me be the bearer of bad news. That had nothing to do with our discussion.
No, what SK was actually trying to communicate to your stupid ass was that people have tried to use these studies in the past before for malicious intent, and those studies have been proven wrong nowadays. The purpose in him bringing that up was using concept for comparison. That wasn't his go-to defense, he was just outlining a concept.
That's the issue. And then you're, oh, study. Here's a study here that's super muddied in the water.
Are you going to ignore what an actual psychologist is saying? They are clearly saying what people
you're not listening to what we are saying.
An actual psychologist could say that a spoon is a fork. I don't give a shit if they say that. They're still wrong. There's scientists in the past who have tried to say that being gay is mentally ill. Guess what? That's fucking wrong. Oh, but
that's a great point. That's fantastic, SK. Thank you.
A scientist said it. A scientist said it, so it must be true. No, it's not.
That was just part of it in a 50 fucking minute call where you looked like a degenerate idiot. What about that is him downplaying gay people? And what he said did correlate to the topic at hand. You tried to use an appeal to authority, and he pointed out how that doesn't always work, especially when on the, with the topic we're talking about, these kinds of studies can be found to be outdated, misinformation, or opinionated, as well as being illogical. This isn't the same as like a study that proves that gravity exists or humans need oxygen to breathe.
And to add more salt in the wound, Chris fucking Hansen, the pedo slayer himself, has weighed in on this topic with this to say. Please stop sending me links to cartoon porn. I find it distasteful, but it's not relevant to my work. Now, mind you, this man has been doing this for the past I want to say, better half of almost, I want to say 30 years at this point. And he has been surrounded by a lot of psychologists who give him insight to how these people's brains work. And if he's literally telling you that cartoon porn has nothing to do with his work, what does that tell you? And on top of that, other child protection agencies have gone on record to complain about the false reports they've gotten over cartoon porn and have explicitly asked people to stop sending them.
How stupid are you? Chris Hansen literally calls you a degenerate just politely when he said he finds it distasteful. Why do you think he said that? And I don't even know the context behind why he said don't send it to him or the child protection agencies, but I'm pretty sure it was most likely due to the fact that the legal option with this kind of thing is a very slippery slope. You're still a fucking weird human being for defending and even downloading these kinds of images, which League Entertainment already proved you did, and you have admitted to yourself in the calls provided in that video. And we will go over more of that later in the video, but for now, I want to play a clip from this video that I mentioned earlier that I said you all should watch, where he explains why the legality aspect of this is a slippery slope.
I did some more research, and in fact, this is a legal gray area because under federal law in section 1466A, title 18, lolly is classified as child porn as it explicitly states that cartoons are included in that category. However, it is very easy to dodge prosecution because of the segment where it specifies that if it possesses artistic value, it's fine. No matter if it does or not, this is a very easy argument for a lawyer to make because artistic value is so subjective, even though we all know that the sole existence of lolly is fat material for these degenerates. It is classified as child porn if you follow the law and take into consideration common sense. But the loophole is there, so lolicons like to say that it is legal. They have a point in the sense that they will probably not be prosecuted under technicalities in their favor, but no, it is illegal. They will tell you that it is not CP because it is not illegal, which is false. It is still CP, but you can legally get away with obtaining it and distributing it under the guise of artistic purposes. So whether or not it can be gotten away with, it is still more so, almost always, the intent of the author or artist of this material is to fetishize the characters, making it inherently illegal. The only catch is that you can lie about your intent, thus changing the legality. Lolly is also explicitly illegal in a few states, most falling into that gray area, with the only state where it's explicitly legal being California. Go figure.
And while I'm here, I think it's also a good time to debunk a lot of speculation surrounding this whole drama, if you can even call it that. We've already gone over the fact that this argument was in fact about cartoon porn, not CP.
No, it is CP, but trust me, we'll get more into that later.
And several lies and narratives have stemmed from the very inflammatory language in order to make the situation look worse than what it actually was. For example, claims that I use CP to entice my audience. Yeah, that's obviously bullshit, because if that were the case, my channel would be gone.
No, as Liam went over in the video, you did use it. Now granted, this was softcore, still weird, but I don't know why you're phrasing this as if it's a lie when you yourself even admitted it, and when we caught you on it and brought it to your attention, this is what happened.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I already know exactly what that is. It's an intro to a video I did for a figure review. I was supposed to be a joke. For fuck's sake. When will these people shut the fuck up? My God.
Well, I'm asking, why is it in there in the first place?
Because I couldn't think of anything interesting to do for the intro, and that's the only thing I could think of.
So you show art that is from a minor?
Yeah, that's not good enough. Like, I feel like I'd understand it more if you were genuinely, like, ignorant. So, I don't know.
Why is this still on your fucking Instagram? Please explain this to me. Why do you still have this shit, like, in your internet history?
Hold on. I think you're... Wait, you're jumping. I think you're jumping, actually. I need to go back to the motivation of it, there was nothing else interesting. So, for a toy review, you can't just, like, show the toy.
Well, yeah, if you watch the whole thing through, it zooms out, then it cuts to me with the figure. That was more as an eye catcher than anything.
Well, why do you use that of all things?
That was the thing I could think of at the time.
Well, no.
Please don't tell me somebody's actually trying to use it as a accusation against me.
I said no. It's not, but it's still being asked about. So I'm asking, like, why was that used in the first place?
It was the one thing I could fucking think of. I don't know what to tell you.
An underage.
I think we need to. Change up the questions because the answer is just not satisfying.
Let's do this. Arachnid. I just want. And granted, this is something in your past, and like me saying this is gonna, like, you know, let you go back in time and change what you did. I just want you to understand this shit. You post a video, or your intro is this fucking video of a fucking, like, a child doing this, like, sexual type pose. Then the video cuts to you holding the figure in your hand. Are you not picking up, like, how bad that is?
Well, it's...
When I said that to you, you were quiet and you had no argument and you kept fumbling over your words, and your only argument as to why you did that was literally, oh, that was the only thing I could think of at the time,
Another claim that's been floating around is that I had an NSFW section in my Discord server where minors could easily access it. This is also a lie. While there was an NSFW section, it was completely locked to where only a handful of members that I knew for a fact were adults had access to. And even then, it was removed because I didn't want that close to the actual community server. And also, claims of apparent CP being shared there are also bullshit. And the worst lie of all that pissed me off the most is the disgusting insinuation that I was somehow sharing CP with my girlfriend. All of these statements are obviously lies, because if they were true, you'd think they'd have actual proof of that, right? Yeah, I thought so.
Again, the only person here that is lying is you, because Comic Legend / Liam never said those things. This is what he actually said.
One day before we broke ties with Arachnid Youth, JP showed me that he had an NSFW chat in his public server where kids were allowed to join all this time, and only after JP and a few others convinced him, he finally made a separate private server to share porn with his girlfriend and close internet friends. Why the fuck are you doing that? Why did you have an NSFW chat in your Discord server where you have children there?
That was the motivation of me fucking removing it in the first place. Making a whole separate server.
It shouldn't have been there in the first place. you
shouldn't need another server for it. You shouldn't need another server for it. It just shouldn't exist.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be here.
Yeah, what a fucking loser. This made me want to check out his server to see if it was as disgusting as I suspected, and I found out it was worse. He had pedophiles who share art of underage characters in a public art chat section of the server, mainly of 14-year-olds, and worst of all, these people are people that Arachnid Youth is known to be friends with and was cool with. When we confronted him on this, his excuse was that he did not see the images in his server, which is hard to believe because the person in question doing this was in the private porn chat with his girlfriend. So, who knows how much art of was consumed by him at this point.
He never said that you specifically shared the CP in your server. He said that someone you were friends with sent that in your art channel of your server. And this friend is also the same person who you had in your private NSFW chat in your server. He didn't say you specifically for sure sent it. What he's saying is, he thinks, given the situation and likely suspicion, based on your past behavior and the context clues, and by your own admission, you did have softcore CP depicting a child as an intro to your video, and that's why him and I both suspect this, even to this day.
And one more thing I want to point out is the fact that all claims made against me have stemmed from lies and exaggeration that for some reason kept growing despite the fact that no real evidence was ever presented. For example, as I mentioned in that excerpt, there was a claim that I drew CP. Yeah, this is a lie because the accusation came from a tweet that I made stating that Word Girl and Sparta Teen from my animated series fucked, with this image accompanying it. Now, aside from the fact that this tweet is obviously a fucking joke, do you see anything sexual about this? No? Okay, cool. I thought I was going insane for a minute. The claim also stemmed from this image that was in the banner of my NSFW Twitter account. Everyone's fully clothed, and the joke is based off the 4 black guys, 1 white girl meme.
Now, while this isn't definitive proof that he drew CP, he asks, do you see anything sexual about this?
Your intellect is as weak as your dollar. Failure is your destiny. You disrespect yourself and your nation. You are made of stupid.
You gotta really look yourself in the mirror and work on your game, young man.
Of course, any normal person wouldn't care and move on, but to Twitter, everything is pedophilia, and if you disagree, you're a pedophile.
No, actually, I think any normal person just wouldn't engage with this type of behavior to begin with.
Now, notice that both versions of Word Girl look different from the original. Yeah, that's because my version is an adult, And no, I haven't made NSFW of this character. Anyone who tells you that is lying out of the side of their ass and has to jump through hoops to claim that this is somehow evidence. Also, side note, while this design is still an adult, I personally didn't rock with it too much, so I went with this design instead, given to me by another Discord user.
You aging up the characters doesn't make you actually a pedo, and I agree with that, and they already went over that in the video they made, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that it's fucking weird that you had to specifically choose a character to age up who is a child. And in this image, you literally said, Spider Teen canonically fucks Word Girl, meaning you're imagining these two characters doing... Oh my god, you're such an idiot.
They also tried using Ginny as an argument for some reason. Ginny is a literal object. That's not even ripping on the fact that she's a fictional character. She's a robot. She's a pile of nuts and bolts. And Comic Legend got mad at another user for rightfully pointing that out.
Ah, yes, the humanoid robot character. How you're not seeing the problem here is fucking incredible. This would be like if someone had a sex doll of a character who's a minor and was like, yeah, it's not real. It's just, you know, it's a pile of silicone. Like, no, it's still fucking weird and pedophilic.
It's like I'm explaining the concept of fiction to a bunch of 5-year-olds.
No, this is like explaining the concept of pedophilia to a person who's over 20 years old. Oh, wait. And you keep using "it's fiction" as an argument when it's been explained to you multiple times. That is a terrible argument. It's still visually depicting a child in a sexual manner. You know what else is fiction? Are you okay with someone getting off to this? Is it still fiction, so it's okay?
Also, Comic Legend, allow me to bestow upon you the biggest hypocrite ever award, because you literally are friends with a man who prefers women with small chests, something you claim to be pedophilic, even though it's a grown-ass woman, so nice body shame there. And you also associate with a furry, someone who is in the same boat of accusations you're lobbing at me.
Arachnid. One, that's not even someone who Liam talks to on a regular basis, if ever, and he's not even close enough to him to consider him a friend. Two, he didn't even know about that. Three, what Comic Legend was trying to communicate to you in that call was to use the context clues to figure out that something is depicting a character that clearly looks like a child, because there's a difference in something that's depicting a child with childlike features and something that's depicting an adult who is just petite. He wasn't saying women with small boobs are children, and neither he or I like the furry person in the server that we don't even own. We just tolerate him if he just so happens to join a call. And even though I think furry shit is weird, that's not pedophilic. So how the fuck is it even remotely in the same boat as what we're talking about with you?
And some people are claiming that my friend RSK shared a folder of CP in the call when he didn't. It was actually a drive filled with verified sources of psychologists who have studied this topic in recent years and came to the reasonable conclusion that it is not the problem these guys are making it.
One, none of them said that your friend sent images of CP. They made fun of the fact that he just had a list of irrelevant sources with illogical studies ready to defend this degenerate weirdo behavior. You shouldn't even need to defend it. You just shouldn't be partaking in it at all. And two, even if these studies were hypothetically true and verified that people won't go out and start touching kids after whacking it to animated shit, that doesn't mean the shit they're doing isn't pedophilic. They are attracted to something sexually depicting a child.
Some people are also claiming that I was defending pedophiles in the past. I don't think I need to tell you this, but this is a lie.
I don't think you know what the definition of a lie is. If you are defending people who are whacking off to things, again, that are sexually depicting a child, then yes, you are defending pedophiles.
A funny thing I learned from several people looking into this is that when people were actually asking for evidence of me being an apparent pedophile, they were also met with resistance. Yeah, I don't know about you, but that is a massive red flag. If you were truly confident about your beliefs, you'd be very easily be able to lay it out, like how I did in my Roaster Swayze VA videos. Instead of whining and crying about him being a My Hero Academia fan, Brad, I focused on the fact that Swayze was an active predator who preyed on children in VR chat, and has one known case of a minor he met in real life. Instead, you whine and gaslight when people use their brains and think outside of your narrative.
You said that Liam was just like whining and crying in his video, but he literally depicted his stance very clearly on the topic in his video. And every time you've been met with pushback against your stance, you go quiet like a little bitch because you don't know how to defend it. And Liam even defended you in the past on things that he thought was unjustified, and he goes over that as well in his video. But until you kept doing more and more weirdo behavior and started backtracking on things that we originally thought that you do not stand by anymore, and were just ignorant to, then we discover the kind of person you really are, and that you have been lying for so long about your change as a person and on the stance.
It's almost as if my point about normal people not caring about cartoons is actually true, and the people who actually care about the safety and well-being of children wanted evidence of me being an actual threat to kids. And you have none of that, because I have never had an inappropriate conversation with a minor, because I have no interest in minors. Yeah, shocking. You got done in by burden of proof.
None of us ever said that you actually went out there and touched kids. We said that what you've done and what you're defending is pedophilic. You don't need to be a predator to be a pedophile. And I don't know what people you talk to in the real world, but if you tell any normal person, hey, I whack off to animated CP, they would probably try to avoid you at all costs because you're a fucking weirdo. And you bring a burden of proof, yet Liam actively proved numerous things in his video, and you haven't proved jack shit against what we're trying to communicate to you.
I also find it funny how SK and Comic Legend were extremely hostile to the point to where SK threatened violence. Yeah, buddy, you do that to me face to face, not only going to be picking up teeth, but you also have a very nasty assault charge on your hands. And now imagine being so wound up by cartoon porn, you're actually going to try to fight someone over it physically and lose. Honestly, that threat was more pathetic than us having the argument in the first place.
If you actually try to say, well, there's grown women out there that have...
She ain't tall enough to be a grown woman either.
Don't do that.
Connect the damn pieces. No tits.
If you
super
do
fucking
that,
short.
If you do that, I will smack the fuck out of you in Minecraft, alright? Don't do that.
What SK said to you in that call was clearly a joke. You sound like a little bitch, shut up. And then you go on again saying the argument is pathetic, and you keep using these deflection tactics and trying to downplay what the actual argument is, which just makes you look like even more of a creep. If you're okay with people defending or consuming things that are depicting a child in a sexual manner, you're a fucking weirdo. And when I caught up on these past arguments and recordings you've had with SK and such, and all of these things are again in Liam's video that he posted on League Entertainment, but the way you sound so hellbent on defending these things makes me think there's something personal in it for you. It doesn't appear like you're defending some other creep. It seems like you're defending your own weird kinks. And while I don't have any actual evidence that you 100% got off to this kind of stuff, I think that given the two examples of you aging up child characters and making up sexual scenarios and implications out of them, the fact that you used the sexual pose of another childlike character as an intro to a goddamn toy review, the fact that one of your close friends is just so okay with sending sexualized images of child characters, and he's in your private NSFW server where you share corn with each other, and the fact that you're a self-admitted corn addict, and a lot of people that are attracted to lolicon are also corn addicts, that doesn't give me much hope that you yourself aren't attracted to or consume these kinds of things. And there's another thing you bring up later in the video that doesn't really give me much confidence either, and I'll get to that when we get to it.
Now you're probably wondering, why did I agree to this final debate with SK and Comic Legend? Well, RSK, my friend, used to be a fan of SK's and thought maybe we could come to a middle ground since we have research, facts, and evidence. Something SK has said verbatim in the past that he's open to admitting he's wrong about if you bring him the evidence.
Because if I saw a mutual of mine state that I'm wrong about something, my go-to response is to ask why. And discussing this in a server to compile references and prepare for this is something I'd welcome. All I care about is the merits of what's being said.
So that was a fucking lie.
My nigga, when someone brings you researched evidence from psychologists that proves your stance wrong, that is the end of that conversation. Period. Your feelings about it at that point no longer matter. As a matter of fact, your feelings are now invalid because they have been proven wrong by people who have actually looked into it.
The evidence that you originally provided in the beginning of that call was a statement from an article that didn't even show links to any studies and is from 12 years ago. And the funniest thing is, in that article, they even say that these things are still pedophilic. And they also didn't even spell pedophilia right. And the other thing was a screenshot with no links to anything. Just a picture of some study from Japan. And the age of consent in Japan is 16. And what they consider pedophilic is different from what we consider being pedophilic. And again, hypothetically, if it was true that in recent studies, it shows that this has no correlation to actual child predators, it is still logically pedophilic that people are getting off to things that are depicting a child. You didn't prove SK's stance wrong, you fucking moron.
I also find it funny he was perfectly fine associating with a 20-year-old who dated a 16-year-old, to the point to where he tried downplaying it by stating, "Oh, it was legal, but it's okay, guys, because the relationship ended. We're all good here." He was so fine to the point to where the main reason they stopped talking on a regular basis was about an argument over Spider-Man.
SK never said that he was okay that Southpaw had a relationship with the 16-year-old. While he was okay with still being friends with him, Southpaw State had a legal age of consent of 16. So he was under the impression that Southpaw at the time was ignorant to this decision, and that he had gotten the proper help he needed to get through that situation. And mind you, he found this out after it happened like 7 years before, and this is just like when we all believed that the stupid shit that you were doing, like aging up minor characters, using animated CP to entice viewers to a video, defending animated CP, and other stuff that I went over earlier, we all chalked that up to just ignorance that you don't stand by. And the more this went on, we stopped believing that you were just ignorant, because you clearly still stand by this, and when you try to defend yourself in an argument, you always look stupid, and you always go silent.
Meanwhile, when that happened with me, I actually tore the guy a new one and cut him off, because the guy had dated a 16-year-old while he was 22 and sent a sexually charged message to a 14-year-old. Yeah, me thinks someone has some very fucked priorities.
Arachnid, this you? And it's fucking hilarious that even Southpaw, one of the smelliest individuals on this planet, together both of you create the anti-shower and soap equation. Even he thinks you're a joke. I fucking can't.
My psychologist, no surprise at all, confirmed I was right. During my absence, I got a psychologist because the drama declined my mental state to the point where I was contemplating whether or not allowing myself to get run over by a train was a viable path to choose. And then I realized, hey, I should probably talk to somebody before I do something to myself. Now, the original plan was to actually record our conversation so you can actually get exactly what we both said, but the conversation includes a lot of personal information about me, so I'm gonna have to paraphrase. Now, he said, and I quote, "There is no correlation, nor is there any causality for the subject. While it is still unhealthy to consume porn in general, this specific subject is not even classified as CP." And it's funny, I already knew this. It was in the information SK and Comic Legend refused to read, and I actually showed him the voice calls we had, and needless to say, he was a bit shocked when they refused to read the evidence that was sent to them, and he was even more horrified to learn that these calls were recorded without my consent and posted publicly in order to slander me. Oh, by the way, that's fucking illegal to do that. From what I remember, SK is from, or at least around the state that I'm not going to name because I'm not in the business of doxing. So I googled it, and yeah, in both his state and mine, it's illegal to record someone without their consent. I'm pretty sure it's also the same for Comic Legend state, but for SK's specifically, it's actually punishable up to 4 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. And as for my state, I am actually advised that I have grounds to sue. I mean, I've already got a pretty solid case going for me. We've got violation of privacy, slander, defamation of character. That false allegation thing is already classified as a misdemeanor, so you're already pretty fucked in that regard. Not to mention emotional distress. SK, Comic Legend, you're both such idiots. You handed me a court case I can easily win because you're such bumbling morons. You posted the evidence of your own crimes for everyone else to see as an own. How did this not cross your mind at any point that this was a bad idea? Oh, right, you wanted clout. Gotcha.
Okay, so there's a lot to break down here. One, you go off word of mouth that your psychologist said these things, and even if you had proof, I already went over how that does not matter. 2, the information you said that he said was wrong because it is classified as CP. Again, also went over that earlier. 3, recording that call was not illegal for either of them because it is not illegal in either Canada, which is where Liam lives, or New York, which is where SK lives. And before anyone says I'm doxing SK or Liam, they didn't care if I revealed that information. And the funniest thing also about this, it's not illegal in your own state, Arachnid, you dumb moron. 4, defamation of character isn't illegal so long as allegations aren't false. And in other cases where people are just stating their opinions based on reasonable conclusion, suspicion, or evidence, that is also not illegal. 5, nobody wants clout from this. In fact, my content, League's content, and SK's content don't even correlate to this topic, and neither this video or their videos exposing you are even monetized to profit from. The only thing any of us gain from doing this is spreading awareness of you being a creepy weirdo who people are better off not interacting with until you actually change as a person. And guess what? You still haven't. And even when we thought you did in the past, we obviously found out that was a lie. And now apparently you have a psychologist that is telling you misinformation, and those appointments are only making you stand by this disgusting behavior even more.
We also went over a few things I used to cope with, and it was pointed out that my YouTube channel is also an avenue that I use to cope by putting my creativity into something that distracts me. So congratulations, SK and Comic Legend. You have not only put a false allegation on a child sexual abuse survivor, you have also harassed and abused said child sexual assault survivor and tried to take away one of his coping mechanisms. What morally upstanding people you are.
If making videos is one of your coping mechanisms, then exposing you doesn't take that away. All this does is show people who you are, so they can make their own judgments on you as a person and choose whether or not they want to engage with your content. And stop doing this sappy sob story bullshit. You put this onto yourself by being unwilling to change. Stop trying to play victim. We all tried to help you through this as well. You only got exposed when we realized that this is more than just you being ignorant and stupid on this topic. The more you talked in these VCs, the more you kept engaging in degenerate behavior, the more you defended pedos and engaged in borderline pedo activities, the more you just exposed who you truly are. Hence why you got cut off, and hence why you're in the situation you're in right now.
And side note, he was actually more concerned about how SK and Comic Legend were acting than me. That should say something.
Oh, I agree, that should say something. So your psychologist is more concerned about SK and Liam because they called you out for degenerate behavior in defense of pedos. Okay, so either your psychologist is also a very weird individual, or you didn't present everything truthfully to him. What a fantastic argument.
This entire drama has been a waste of everyone's time. What attention could have been given towards actual predators preying on children was wasted on an argument about cartoon porn. Listen here and listen good. Everyone's entitled to their opinions on this subject. You can find stuff weird, gross, disgusting, whatever, but it's not indicative of what someone actually is or being a threat.
1, people can still be concerned with both actual predators and pedophiles. It doesn't have to be a pick and choose. 2, I already covered the fact that even if there are studies that don't correlate lolicon with actual predators, that doesn't mean people who consume lolly aren't pedophiles.
Once again, exactly like the debunked argument of violent video games causing violence in real life, I play a lot of The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. I kill NPCs on an, almost minute-to-minute basis. Does that mean I am now highly susceptible to being an axe murderer because I love to wield an axe while I put it through the brains of NPCs? Now, before you try to fry your brain answering that question, no.
The only person here with a fried brain here is you. The fact that you think this is even remotely equivalent is telling. And I'm not even gonna explain this because Ween explains it very clearly in his video, even though he didn't need to, because anyone with a brain knows why this is a terrible argument.
You're fine with violence in video games, so you should be fine with lolly. Basically stating that video games would cause people to murder if lolly caused people to offend. On paper, this is their best argument until you understand the chemical process behind the acts of sexual gratification and murder. Sexual arousal releases a cocktail of addictive chemicals such as dopamine, endorphins, and oxytocin. This is the same for self-pleasure and actual physical intimacy. Video games, which allow you to kill, release dopamine. Killing in real life, however, just dumps a shit ton of adrenaline on most people, and most people recognize that killing in real life will not give you the same satisfactory response that you get from Call of Duty. We also understand that sexual gratification is essentially the same in self-pleasure as it is in intercourse, with intercourse being much better better for most people. It is safe to infer that most people will seek out sexual intercourse at some point based on what they gratify themselves to, and that most people will not look to kill another person simply based off of media. Did I need to explain this to most people? No. They like to point out that there's a difference between fantasy and reality, but also fail to acknowledge that certain fantasies, especially sexual, have a huge impact on your reality.
And oh dear Lord, don't even get me started about the overabundance of people who have virtue signal about this subject, yet were outed for grooming minors. There's an entire list of these people, and it's still growing. Yeah, it's funny how actual pedophiles go along with what you're saying, because it takes the spotlight off of them. It's something I also mentioned in my Pet Olympics video. It's funny how you're willing to listen to the pedophiles who agree with you, but you're not willing to listen to psychologists who tell you that, yeah, this stuff isn't a problem. It's not categorized as pedophilia, it's not CP, it's literally just weird cartoon porn, and that's how it's classified. You are so gung-ho on ignoring them, but actively listening to pedophiles who want to shield their misdeeds. Every time I bring this subject up to somebody, they never have a good answer for why this is. But do you know the real reason why this whole situation happened? It's because everyone involved in this argument are all terminally online, including myself. We've been wasting so much time on this retarded argument. Actual pedophiles have been going around under our noses, and that's because you bumbling retards have been wasting our time talking about cartoon porn.
I don't even think I need to mention at this point how he keeps using deflection tactics to try and make him seem like like he's in the right. But he also keeps saying, oh, psychologists agree with my stupid arguments based on their illogical studies. Okay, Arachnid, what is the definition of a pedophile? A person who is sexually attracted to children. What is the definition of CP? Any visual depiction of a minor, a person who has not reached the age of consent, engaging in sexual explicit activity. In the Federal Criminal Code of the U.S., CP is partly defined as any photograph, film, video, picture, or computer-generated images that depicts actual or simulated sexually explicit activity by a minor, where, in the latter case, the simulation is indistinguishable from actual sexually explicit activity. CP also includes visual depictions that are created or modified so as to appear to depict actual sexually explicit activity by an identifiable minor, i.e. by a recognizable individual who was a minor when the visual depiction was created or modified, or whose image as a minor was used in the creation of the modification of the visual depiction. The age of consent, the age at which most people become legally capable of consenting to sexual relations, varies widely between countries, though in most countries, including the US, it is set between 16 and 18 years old. Sexually explicit activities are understood to include sexual intercourse, sodomy, fellatio, masturbation, sadomasochistic abuse, bestiality, and sexually alluring displays of genitals or the pubic area, because CP generally involves egregious acts of criminal sexual abuse and exploitation of children, which are profoundly harmful to the child victims. The production, distribution, and possession of CP are prohibited by law in most countries and are often harshly punished. In the United States, CP and activities related to it, including production, distribution, possession, and promotion, are prohibited by federal law and by the legal codes of all 50 states.
Number one, it's not illegal. SK knows this and has backed off of this point. Hence why you hear in the call, we don't bring up legality, because he got cooked last time he did.
Guess what, champ? We've already went over multiple times why it is illegal and how it is illegal. Stop using legal loopholes to justify your degenerate behavior.
I don't think I need to tell you this, but CP is illegal on a federal level. Yet you will see cartoon porn being made in easily findable on Twitter, and even censored versions on YouTube. So if it's CP like you claim it is, why is it up?
Yes, there is cartoon porn on Twitter, and yes, censored on YouTube. You ask why it's up, and that's because, 1, cartoon porn doesn't always mean it's lolly, just like regular porn doesn't always mean it's CP. 2, if things are censored, meaning work safe for people to make videos on the topic, to either educate or expose someone, then that's why it's still up. It's work safe.
And if you really do believe it's CP, why aren't you doing something about it? Oh, right. That's because you need to do your performative slacktivism to make you look like a good person. Okay, I get it now. You're just a fucking grifter. That's what you are.
We are doing something about it when we see it. What do you think the purpose of these videos are for? It's better to spread awareness than make up a legal case where a lawyer can easily use a loophole to get the weirdo out of legal trouble. And if exposing pedos is grifting in your mind, then okay, that's fine. It's like, who fucking cares?
Number 2, it's not classified as CP in the slightest. SK and Comic Legend tried to lie about the definition, but I have reading comprehension, much to the dismay of my detractor. But the definition of CP clearly states it has to be identifiable from an actual minor. Cartoons do not look like minors. I don't think I need to tell you that, but cartoons don't look like real people at all. They're figments of somebody's imagination somebody made up.
Already gone over how it's illegal still, and I'll leave a link to this in the description, even though again, it's already been gone over in the video. But there are very easy ways to distinguish when something being animated, drawn, or computer generated is depicting a minor, especially when the character in question might already have their age known by the viewers of the piece of media. Ween has a very long section in his video where he explains very clearly how these distinctions are made. So rather than playing the entire 6 to 8 minute section of that video, I again encourage you to go watch it.
And if you think this somehow looks like a real person, there's obviously some screws loose upstairs. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I think you should check yourself to a psych ward because you have a very debilitating case of schizophrenia.
Well, that's ironic. I already covered this part earlier, but we never said it verbatim looks like a real person to a T. But it is a 16-year-old humanoid robot. And again, in the definition of CP, it also states it also includes visual depictions that are created or modified so as to appear to depict an actually sexually explicit activity by an identifiable minor. And the fact that you continue to be obtuse about this, again, is very telling of you as a person.
Number 3, psychology does not agree with you in the slightest. In that call, RSK and I sent SK and Comic Legends sources from psychologists who have studied this topic in full and have come to the conclusion that it is not, nor will it ever be, connected to pedophilia. Multiple psychologists have studied this because it's not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for like the better half of like 40 years. And they've pretty much come to the conclusion that no, it's not connected to pedophilia. If psychologists are literally telling you that it's not connected, why are you still going to try to lie and say that there's a connection?
I've looked at parts of the folder that Arachnid's friends sent to SK and Liam, and a lot of the things sent are from Japanese studies, which I already outlined as a problem earlier, and there are also other studies mixed in with this. And a good amount of these are long as shit, and I am not reading them. But you want to know why I'm not reading them? Because I do not need to. It's common sense. These kinds of studies can often be related to opinion pieces as opposed to things like biological studies. And they can also be a product of the studied individuals not telling the whole truth of how they are feeling. Just like Arachnid with his own psychologist. And again, these studies can be illogical, and guess what? They are illogical. If you're attracted to something that is depicting a child, you are a pedophile. End of story. And it is still classified as CP. And I've also heard the argument that, oh, people can take adult characters and style them however they want. Yes, I agree, that's fine, but if you're taking a perfectly normal looking adult character and purposefully turning them into a style that makes them look childlike and you sexualize that, then you're a fucking weirdo. For the same reason, you're a weird person for taking a child character and aging them up just so your fictional OC can fuck them. The same fictional OC that's still labeled Spider Teen.
And what's funny, my psychologist confirms I'm nowhere near the spectrum of actually being attracted to minors. So that also kind of just rubs salt into these people's wounds even more, because now my psychologist has confirmed, no, I don't like kids. I mean, I already knew that, but you know, if I didn't really need a psychologist to tell me that, but now that a psychologist told me that, I guess I can sleep a little better.
So let's hold up for a second. If your psychologist is telling you you're not attracted to kids, then that statement that he told you had to arrive from a conversation of you talking about that you yourself are attracted to animated CP. And if this brainlet of a psychologist told you you're not attracted to kids, even though you have an attraction to things that are depicting a child in a sexual manner, then does that mean that you had thoughts of being attracted to kids based on this whole lolly situation? And if you can now sleep a little better because this therapist told you that, well, You didn't really think that one through, did you, champ? I'm now gonna skip a little bit ahead because, again, he repeats the same shit that I've already covered earlier, and he says other things that are just mostly irrelevant to the topic of him being a degenerate. You can watch his full video if you want, just so you know that I'm not lying, but what he basically says after this is that Comic Legend was being a dick to his girlfriend, and she was caught in the crossfire of the video that Liam made, yada yada yada. What he said was a lie, and I can attest to this because Comic Legend was only a dick to her when she was intrusive on conversations, being annoying, or he was calling her out on her own degenerate behavior that she also takes part in. Now, while I personally muted the girl whenever she was in the call because I knew I would snap on her as well, I don't blame Liam for being a dick to her because of things mentioned previously, and if being a dick to her for said reasons makes him a bad person by your standards, then I don't really think he gives a shit, and neither do I.
The fact you threatened to kick me out of League Entertainment if I didn't delete the video of me and my girlfriend playing VR chat because you found it cringe, and Legend did.
That's not pause, because that's actually lying about me. That's not true. What actually happened, I never threatened to kick him out of League. What I said is if he keeps doing cringy shit on his YouTube channel, that looks bad on League. I don't want you to be on League if you're going to keep making a fool out of yourself when you're a part of League Entertainment. If you're a member of my community and you look like a fart-licking fucking loser with your cringy videos, why the fuck would I not have a problem with that? You represent my fucking goddamn channel, you stupid fuck. You are a representative of League because you make content there.
I'm just gonna clip that and put that in the video.
And finally, the most telling of all, the fact you knew all of this, yet you didn't report me to the police or try to report any of my accounts, because you know full well every negative thing you said regarding me is a bold-faced lie, only bolstered by inflammatory language in order to get people on your side. Why else would you get upset I stuck by calling it cartoons and fictional characters when you tried calling it CP? It ruins your narrative about me. So you tried to make me look crazy by jumping through hoops, pulling your hair out when I just take this simple, straightforward walk. Why else would you get upset when I bring sources that back me up?
Once again, I've already explained why reporting someone to the police for this kind of situation is not very helpful due to the legal loopholes. And nothing you've provided disproves this quote-unquote narrative. The only one jumping through hoops here is you. The reason we get annoyed at your sources is because of things I've already gone over once again.
Why would you try to downplay me being abusive to my in-real-life friend about this subject because she was participating in weird-ass shipping, yet she has no interest in minors? Oh, you were wrong, but you weren't wrong. No, motherfucker, I was wrong 100%. That's what opened my eyes to this entire argument being bullshit, because I dragged it into the real world, only to realize that none of it has any weight in the real world.
The thing he's talking about here is how he used to bully his IRL friend for lolicon and shipping underage characters with overage characters. And guess what, Arachnid? I don't even care what Liam has to say about that. I'll say a similar sentiment as him and what I would have said if I was in the call with you. You should have gotten on your friend's ass and bullied them about this. And instead of conceding to her because she was probably one of your only friends, you should have pushed her to get the proper help for her pedo behavior. Or you should have used her brain and pointed out why the shit she's saying is fucking illogical. And also, this does have weight in the real world. You were just an idiot. You keep saying it doesn't hold weight in the real world, but you seem to forget that real people are who you are talking to. Just because it just so happens to be on a voice call doesn't mean anything. If you have an argument with your girlfriend or your family member or your friends over the phone, does that not attribute to the real world after that? And normal people in the real world would look at shit like this and either be disgusted by it or not even want to talk about it because this kind of shit makes any normal person uncomfortable. And some people may be too uncomfortable to even want to speak about it or consume anything even related to the topic.
You know who cares about this? You know who this matters to? Fucking terminally online losers!
Even if it was hypothetically true that the only people who care about this are terminally online losers, it's still far better to be terminally online than to be someone like you.
Something about this ain't adding up. You know, it kind of makes me wonder if there's any skeletons hiding that we're not seeing.
This makes me wonder if there's any children in your basement that you're keeping. The rest of this video is just a bunch of yap that I don't need to cover as it's either unrelated to the topic or it's just him repeating things that I've already pointed out to be illogical, stupid, etc. You could watch this whole video for yourself if you think I'm lying, and if he winds up deleting the video, well, I guess that tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, hopefully, I've pointed out to you all how much of a weird individual Arachnid is. And while I can't control how you take this information nor what you do with it, I just thought it needed to be put out there. And I was not joking when I said you should watch this video from Ween. You will notice how similar Arachnid and the people that he goes over and discusses in that video, how similar they are. And it's really fucking disturbing. And one final thing, Arachnid, fuck you for tainting my old profile picture.